It's the day fans of Fixer Upper have been dreading since Chip and Joanna Gaines announced the season would be their final one.
The last episode aired tonight as fans watched from all across the country.
Chip Gaines with his easy laugh, knocking down walls, and Joanna with her soft, steady gaze, turning wrecked kitchens into dream homes on camera. It felt like the perfect American story, didn't it? Millions tuned in, believing in that shiplap fairy tale. But behind those open-concept reveals and bright white walls, what really happened between Joanna and Gaines when the lights turned off? From whispers of financial strains to small legal storms that never made it to the final cut, their journey was layered with tension that viewers never saw. But first, how did Chip and Joanna's relationship really begin? And what early hurdles almost ended it before it started? The rocky start. It was a warm Texas morning when Joanna first met Chip Gaines. She stood behind the counter at her father's tire shop, ringing up customers while Chip walked in, carrying his usual energy like a weather front. At that moment, she wasn't looking for love, and he wasn't looking for a quiet life. But something in the air shifted that day, though neither of them could see where it would lead. Joanna later admitted she had actually been interested in Chip's roommate at first, finding him calm and measured, the kind of person who fit the neat lines she liked to draw around her life. She was drawn to stability, someone who showed up on time and didn't bring chaos into every room. But then Chip, with his messy charm, stepped forward, talking about big dreams and wild ideas that sounded impossible. And something about his voice made her pause, even if she didn't want to admit it. Chip was not the man who showed up 5 minutes early with coffee in hand. On their first date, he was late. Not by a few minutes, but by more than an hour. Can you imagine? Chip is out there doing who knows what, while Joanna sat in her car, debating whether to leave and call it a lesson learned. According to Joanna, she thought, "What an idiot," as she watched the clock tick past the hour, past the half hour, and finally past the point of giving him another chance. And yet, when he finally did show up, breathless and smiling, Chip's energy pulled her in. He started talking and didn't stop, filling the space with stories and laughter, telling her about flipping houses, taking risks, and how he believed he could build something big one day. Joanna, who usually kept her thoughts close, found herself laughing, even though she was annoyed. For sure, it wasn't the date she wanted, but it was the date that would change everything. Their personalities could not have been more different. Joanna was measured and detail-oriented, someone who found peace in plans and schedules, and always knew what was next. On the other hand, Chip was chaos and motion, the kind of person who would take a risk before thinking it through, put everything on the line for a dream that might not work, and find joy in the unknown, while Joanna found fear. They later shared that these differences led to some of their biggest fights, especially in the early years. Chip believed in the power of momentum, that sometimes you just have to act, even if it's not perfect. Joanna wanted the details to align. She dreamt of building something steady and needed time to process big decisions. This tension wasn't just a quiet undercurrent in their home. It was loud and real, sometimes ending in silence that stretched for days. Early in their dating life, Joanna faced surgery, which delayed their second date. It was a moment that made her question if moving forward with Chip was the right choice, and if a man who was often late and scattered could be the person she needed during a hard season. Chip showed up, though, sitting beside her, telling her stories to keep her mind off the fear, reminding her that life could be light even when it felt heavy. They got married in May 2003, with Joanna wearing a simple white dress and Chip looking every bit like the man who believed he could change the world. But their wedding wasn't the start of a fairy tale. They were two people trying to build a life while still learning how to live alongside each other's edges. Money was tight. Chip made bold decisions that sometimes left them scrambling to pay bills. Joanna struggled with the uncertainty, holding on to the belief that they would find a rhythm if they kept trying. Their early marriage had moments that tested their foundation. They fought about the small things, like how Chip left tools around the house, and about bigger things, like financial risks that could put their family's future in question. Joanna once shared that she had to learn how to set boundaries with Chip to speak up when his big ideas started to overshadow their daily needs. In contrast, Chip learned to slow down and let Joanna's careful plans shape his ambitions so they could build something together instead of tearing each other apart. It is easy to see them now, standing side by side in carefully curated photos, holding hands in front of a freshly flipped home, and believe that it has always been this perfect. But their journey was built on disagreements, learning how to speak when it was easier to walk away, and choosing to stay when leaving felt like the simpler option. Every open concept reveal on Fixer Upper is backed by nights when they had to remind themselves why they chose each other and why they kept choosing each other, even when it was hard. And maybe that is why people connected with them, not because their life was flawless, but because, like all of us, they struggled to find a balance between love and ambition, between dreams and stability. Their rocky start was not a sign of failure, but a reminder that even the most picture-perfect stories begin with moments of doubt, second-guessing, and wondering if this person beside you will still be there when the dust settles. If you've ever had a rocky start with someone you love and wondered if it was worth the fight, share your story in the comments. Let's see how many of us found something worth keeping, even when it felt like letting go would have been easier. But what happened after the wedding? Did the fairy tale continue, or did real-life pressures start to weigh in? Early marriage struggles. It is easy to see Chip and Joanna Gaines now, standing outside one of their beautifully flipped homes, the Magnolia brand shining around them, and think it was always like this. It is tempting to believe that the farmhouse sinks, open shelves, and white shiplap came without a price. But their early marriage was built on tight margins, long nights, and moments that would test any couple's promise to stand together. They were living in a small house with thin walls, raising babies while flipping homes, hoping the next project would give them enough breathing room to pay off debts. Chip would leave early with the truck packed with tools. Joanna would stay behind, managing calls while balancing a baby on her hip, scribbling lists on the back of receipts to keep track of expenses. She has admitted she often felt the weight of uncertainty press into her chest, a fear that maybe they were in over their heads. Maybe the dream of flipping homes and building something of their own would break them before it saved them. And yet, Chip carried a belief that somehow it would work out. He saw potential in every broken-down property, believing that with enough elbow grease and faith, they could turn it into something beautiful, something that would sell and keep them afloat. That type of optimism was both a gift and a challenge for Joanna. You see, she preferred stability. She wanted a clear plan for every step, which was quite the opposite of his husband. Chip was willing to take risks with a smile, convincing himself that the future was something they could build, even if the present was messy. But it was not just financial struggles that challenged them. There was a day when Chip ended up in a cold, uncomfortable jail cell because he had not paid fines connected to a neighbor dispute over their dogs. The details are simple. The dogs had gotten out, then the neighbors were upset. There were court dates, and Chip missed one. That led to a warrant, and Chip spending a night in jail, something Joanna had to deal with at home while trying to keep everything from falling apart. It was a moment that stripped away the illusion of the perfect fixer-upper couple, revealing the reality of two people trying to figure out how to be adults, parents, and business owners all at the same time. In those days, flipping houses was not the glamorous montage people saw on HGTV later. It was early mornings scraping paint off walls and long afternoons tearing out old floors. At the same time, a baby cried in the next room, and nights were spent wondering if they could ever sell the property in time to pay the next bill. They were learning how to build a business while raising a family. Do you know how hard that is? But they were committed. Committed to learning how to argue about money while changing diapers and staying on the same team when it felt like the world was testing them every day. It was during these years that they faced legal issues that added even more pressure to their already strained lives. Chip's Magnolia Realty, the real estate side of their dream, became a source of tension when a lawsuit emerged from former business partners who claimed Chip had bought them out without letting them know a television deal with HGTV was in the works. It was the kind of lawsuit that could keep you up at night and make you question every decision that can turn partners into adversaries and leave you wondering if the dream is worth the fight. In recent interviews, Joanna shared how these years were full of moments when she wondered if they could keep going, and if the weight of the financial stress and the public pressure that was beginning to build would crush them. Fame did not come gently. It came with expectations, with people watching, with the knowledge that every mistake could be magnified. It came with tension, arguments over priorities, and moments when the business felt like it was taking more than it was giving. With his constant optimism, Chip would reassure Joanna that they were building something worth the struggle. He would point to the progress they were making, the houses they were finishing, and the smiles on their clients' faces when they saw the finished product. Joanna, who felt the fear more acutely, would remind Chip of the risks they were taking, the children they were raising, and the future they were trying to protect. It was a constant push and pull between faith and fear, between risk and caution, between dreaming big and staying grounded. And yet, despite the lawsuits, the nights spent wondering how to pay the bills, and the nights Chip spent in jail while Joanna managed the chaos at home, they kept going. They found a rhythm, imperfect but theirs, a way of balancing the chaos with the hope that tomorrow would be a little easier. Chip has shared how he believed in the power of showing up, working hard even when the outcome was uncertain, and trusting that effort would eventually lead to progress. Joanna expressed that she learned to trust that faith, to let herself believe that the messiness of their journey was part of what made it real and what would make it worth it in the end. She found strength in the small victories, in the moments when a project came together, in the nights when they could sit together after the kids were asleep, knowing they had survived another day. The lawsuits did not disappear overnight, and the financial pressure did not magically lift. The strain of balancing a growing business with a growing family did not ease quickly. But they learned to navigate it, communicate and fight for their marriage even while they were fighting to build their business. As their television fame grew, they faced a new kind of pressure. The kind that came with being public figures, having their decisions questioned, their mistakes highlighted, and their private moments exposed. Fame added another layer of complexity, another challenge they had to learn to manage. It tested their commitment to each other and their ability to protect their family while sharing their lives with millions of viewers. Joanna has admitted that there were moments when she wondered if it was worth it, if the brand, the business, and the fame were taking too much from their family. Chip, ever the optimist, would remind her of why they started, the vision they shared, and the lives they were able to touch through their work. It was not always an easy conversation, but it was one they kept having that helped them stay connected even as the world around them grew louder and more demanding. If you have ever wondered whether fame helps or harms relationships, Chip and Joanna's story might give you a new perspective. Fame brought them opportunities, but also challenges that tested their marriage in ways few people could understand. As much as it added pressure, it forced them to have hard conversations, set boundaries, and fight for what mattered most. Do you think fame helps couples grow closer, or does it push them apart? But with so much pressure, how did Chip and Joanna manage to keep their marriage from falling apart? Was it sheer luck? Or did Chip and Joanna discover a secret formula to turn adversity into success? How they overcame adversity, and built an empire. Their business was young, their marriage was younger, and their bank account emptier than they would have liked. Yet they held on to a quiet belief that they could build something lasting if they kept moving, flipping houses and showing up for each other. The only money we had was what was in Chip's pocket. Joanna once shared a simple truth that explained the weight of those years without needing dramatic flair. They were not handed an empire, and they were not born into fame. They built it, one scraped floorboard at a time, all while juggling babies, bills, and the small, daily fears that come with living on the edge of what you can afford. They learned the hard way that teamwork was not just a word you put on a coffee mug. It was a way of waking up every day and deciding you would find a way forward together, even if the path were uncertain. Joanna, who preferred lists, plans, and a clear vision, often felt rattled by Chip's faith in the unknown and his willingness to take risks on properties that looked too far gone. His casual approach to what worried her most was another discomfort. Chip, in return, trusted Joanna's eye for beauty, her steady hand with budgets, and her quiet but powerful belief that their work could mean something also came a long way in strengthening their relationship. Their reflections on these years paint a picture of a couple who did not avoid conflict, but learned how to fight fairly and move forward. Just like any other couple, they admitted there were times when they argued so intensely over decisions that it would have been easy to step away. They learned how to pause, breathe, and return to the conversation when the emotions settled. Communication saved us, Joanna admitted. It's quite a good strategy. Joanna also shared how hard conversations about money, priorities, and time taught them to listen rather than react, to ask questions rather than assume the worst, and to find common ground even when it was easier to walk away. And it was this commitment to keep talking, even in the middle of disagreements, that helped them align their hearts and business goals. They discovered that what started as a shared passion for old homes and fresh paint could become something much bigger if they were willing to keep their priorities clear. They learned to say no to opportunities that did not align with their values, even when the money looked tempting, and to protect their family time when their schedule threatened to swallow their evenings and weekends. They took that teamwork and poured it into Magnolia, a brand that became more than just a business name. Magnolia turned into a vision that included a network, product lines, restaurants, books, and a community of people who believed in making spaces warm, welcoming, and deeply personal. They did not set out to build a multi-million-dollar empire, but step by step, with every home they restored, they discovered how their partnership could grow into something bigger than themselves. There was even a time when their lives felt too small for the dreams they carried. They were flipping homes in neighborhoods where every dollar mattered, raising children who needed them to be present, and wondering if they were making the right decisions when they turned down safer paths for the uncertain road of building a business together. However, as their vision for Magnolia grew, so did their understanding of what they wanted their success to look like. Insiders who watched their journey often noted how grounded they remained despite fame. They did not hide the reality that success came with pressure, but they did not allow the attention to change who they were at their core. They continued to wake up early, spend time with their children, and make decisions with the long term in mind rather than chasing short-term validation. They stayed rooted in the same values they had when they first started, choosing projects that aligned with their beliefs and turning down those that did not, even if it meant losing potential revenue. Fame, as they admitted, introduced new challenges. The world started to watch them closely, analyzing their decisions, parenting choices, and business strategies. It would have been easy to lose themselves in the pressure of public expectations, to let the weight of constant attention shift their priorities. But instead of allowing the spotlight to break them, they used it as a reminder to remain focused on what mattered: their family, their marriage, and their mission to create spaces that felt like home. They acknowledged that fame impacted their personalities and relationship dynamics in unexpected ways. Chip, who thrived on energy and chaos, found himself needing to slow down and listen more as the stakes grew higher. Joanna, who carried the weight of maintaining quality and detail in their projects, learned to trust her instincts even when public opinion questioned her choices. Together, they discovered how to grow without growing apart, evolve without losing themselves, and remain partners in a world that often encourages individualism over teamwork. Their journey is a reminder that the foundation of a successful partnership, especially in business and marriage, is not avoiding conflict, but navigating it with honesty, grace, and a shared commitment to growth. They learned to respect each other's strengths, to cover for each other's weaknesses, and to keep showing up, even when it would have been easier to walk away. Chip and Joanna's empire did not emerge from a single moment of success. It was built over years of showing up, taking risks, learning from mistakes, and choosing to remain a team. They turned setbacks into lessons, disagreements into opportunities to grow, and challenges into stepping stones towards something bigger. Their story is not about perfection, but about perseverance. Not about luck, but about learning how to align your actions with your values and trusting the process. If you are watching this and wondering what makes a long-term relationship work, consider how Chip and Joanna made teamwork, communication, and shared purpose the backbone of their success. They were not immune to the pressures of fame, financial hardship, or personal disagreements. Still, they made a choice to keep working together, talking, and to keep dreaming, even when it felt hard. What qualities do you think sustain long-term relationships? Is it a shared vision, communication, forgiveness, or something else entirely? Because while Chip and Joanna have built an empire that includes television networks, retail lines, restaurants, and countless home transformations, their greatest achievement might just be the commitment they made to each other, the decision to keep showing up for their family and their marriage, even when the cameras were off and the world was not watching. But was the on-screen chemistry on Fixer Upper masking deeper tensions and frustrations? Despite their success, were there cracks beneath the surface that fans didn't see? Behind the scenes on Fixer Upper. On screen, everything always felt warm. The kind of show you could watch with coffee on a quiet Sunday. But if you looked closely, fans started noticing something in those later seasons. A subtle change in how Chip and Joanna spoke to each other, in the space between their smiles, the way they paused before responding, the small glances that said more than words ever could. It wasn't a meltdown, not a sudden collapse of a brand. It was something quieter, like a hum in the background, building up over time as the show's success turned them from local home renovators into national celebrities with a network, brand, and business empire that needed constant attention. The projects grew bigger, deadlines got tighter, and the cameras were there for all of it, capturing moments that would later be edited into episodes with warm music and laughter. Fans on Reddit shared how they noticed Chip interrupting Joanna more often during reveals, or how Joanna's smiles sometimes seemed thinner, how they sometimes seemed to pull away from each other even while standing side by side in the same frame as if they were each managing a different load that the other could not fully understand. Behind the scenes, some moments also tested their patience. For example, dealing with homeowners who were not as easygoing as the show made them appear. It is easy to watch the reveal moment, the joyful tears and excited claps, and forget the weeks of stress, decisions, and disagreements that came before that final shot. Chip and Joanna faced homeowners who challenged their designs, argued over budgets, and refused to trust their process, which led to days when tensions ran high even after the cameras were turned off. They once had a client who demanded changes mid-renovation, pushing budgets over limits, while expecting Joanna to redesign entire layouts on the fly. Another homeowner reportedly ignored Chip's advice on foundational repairs, leading to hidden costs that Magnolia quietly handled to keep the project moving for the show. When you factor these into an already strained relationship, you are bound to get a disaster. These were the moments that never made it to air, and you would understand why. These parts added strain to days already packed with filming, meetings, family commitments, and business negotiations. The show became more than just about flipping homes. It became a stage where every misstep was magnified, and every disagreement had the potential to become a meme. Even every pause or sigh could be dissected by viewers who felt they knew Chip and Joanna personally. And fame, as it often does, brought with it a new set of expectations and pressures. Rumors started swirling online and in media circles about how the business side of Magnolia might have added strain to their personal relationship. Managing a brand that touched everything from home goods to television programming required constant decisions, many of which needed both of them to agree, while still balancing their family life and personal values. According to insiders, there were whispers about disagreements over how fast to expand, how to balance filming schedules with raising 5 children, and how to navigate a public life while protecting their family's privacy. There were times when Joanna felt the weight of expectations pressing on her, especially during high-stakes reveals where designs had to be completed under tight timelines with camera crews ready to capture every moment. She was responsible for ensuring the projects met their standards while also ensuring the narrative was smooth for television. Chip, with his easy humor and fearless approach to taking on projects, sometimes found himself frustrated by the constant need to stay on schedule. Without a doubt, the logistics of coordinating crews, suppliers, and permits under the watchful eye of producers and fans who expected perfection with every episode must have weighed him down. However, these were not scandals meant to break them, but they were real tensions that added layers to a story that viewers only saw in part. When people talk about reality television, there is often a belief that what is on screen captures the whole truth. But anyone who has ever worked on a show, or even followed one closely, knows that what you see is carefully chosen, edited, and presented in a way that creates a consistent brand story. It is not that these stories are false, but rather that they are incomplete. In truth, Chip and Joanna's story is more interesting because of these hidden tensions. They reveal the realities behind reality TV, the challenges of turning passion into a business, the pressures of fame that test even the strongest of relationships, and the daily decisions that come with being business partners and spouses simultaneously. It is one thing to flip homes together, but it is another thing to build a brand that employs teams of people, negotiates television contracts, manages product lines, and operates a network, all while raising children and trying to keep family time sacred. Have you ever found yourself watching Fixer Upper and thinking that Chip and Joanna's chemistry was too perfect to be real? Well, maybe you were seeing something that was true in part, but not the whole picture. Maybe you noticed how their energy changed over the seasons, and how they learned to navigate the new weight of their responsibilities while maintaining the warmth that made viewers trust them. And maybe, like many fans, you wondered how they managed to keep going when the pressures seemed so intense. It is fair to ask if reality television can ever truly capture real relationships, or if the very presence of a camera changes the way people interact, especially when those interactions are part of building a brand that millions follow. Chip and Joanna's story shows that the reality behind reality TV is layered, filled with moments of joy and frustration, teamwork and tension, small victories and quiet compromises. Now tell me, can a reality TV show ever fully capture the real dynamics of a relationship? Or does the act of filming change everything, even when people try to be authentic? Let me know in the comments below. Because as we wrap this chapter, one truth remains clear. While the on-screen chemistry was real, so were the challenges that tested their patience, teamwork, and love for each other as they built the Magnolia brand into what it is today.